I'd also like to welcome and acknowledge the Government of Western Australia today, represented by Minister John Carey, Member for Perth and Acting Tourism Minister, and thank you for your words earlier, Minister. Tourism Western Australia, its CEO Rebecca Brown and Executive Director of Events Anna Last. UFC is very appreciative of and grateful for the partnerships we have in Western Australia, which makes UFC 305 this event possible. I'd also like to welcome Anthony Grover, the Executive Director of the Combat Sports Commission of Western Australia, Michael Scott, the General Manager, and his staff here at RAC Arena, and the members of the press. Most of all, to the athletes here joining me on stage, a huge appreciation for your participation at today's press conference. UFC 305, Du Plessis versus Adesanya will take place here at Perth's RAC Arena on Sunday, August 18th. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 12 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time via Ticketek. Pre-sale has commenced for UFC Fight Club members and will continue tomorrow for fans who have registered for pre-sale ticket access at ufc.com/Perth. Travel packages via Sportsnet Holidays and VIP experience packages via On Location will remain on sale until sold out. We're expecting a very high demand for tickets. We encourage fans to be patient and to only purchase tickets via official retailers and partners. That is Ticketek, On Location, and Sportsnet Holidays. UFC 305 will feature some of the best regional and international mixed martial artists and headlined by perhaps the most anticipated fight of the year. UFC has confirmed the following bouts for UFC 305, which are subject to the approval of the Western Australian Combat Sports Commission. UFC newcomer Brisbane Tom Nolan will face Alex Reyes at lightweight. Melbourne featherweight and exciting rising star Jack Jenkins will meet Gavin Tucker. Josh Coolabau from Sydney will take on Ricardo Ramos at 145 pounds. Scottish-born Queenslander and the 14th ranked women's flyweight Casey O'Neill will face Teresa Bleda. New Zealand-born Queenslander Junior Taffa stays at heavyweight to throw down against Walter Walker. And fan favourite and 10th ranked heavyweight Thai Bam Bam Tuivasa from Western Sydney will trade level with the 14th ranked Yurino Rosenstrike. Which brings me to the four gentlemen I have here with me on stage who will feature on the main card for UFC 305. Two former title contenders will meet in the flyweight division. Cara-France is the 4th ranked UFC flyweight. Fighting out of Auckland, New Zealand, Kai makes an anticipated return to the octagon after an extended hiatus. He will face Perth's own Steve Erceg. Steve has enjoyed a rapid rise in his short career at UFC and is currently ranked 9th in the division. This is an epic trans-Tasman battle with fight of the night quality written all over it. In the main event, the UFC middleweight title is on the line between current champion Dricus Du Plessis, who will defend against former champion Israel Adesanya. This is one of the most anticipated fights of the year in the most hotly contested division in the UFC. South Africa's Du Plessis is fighting out of Pretoria as undefeated in competition and currently on a winning streak of 9 fights, including 5 post-fight bonuses. This will be his first title defence against the former champion and one of the biggest names of the sport in Israel Adesanya. A Nigerian native fighting out of Auckland, New Zealand, Adesanya returns to Perth, where his famed UFC career began at UFC 221 in 2018. Adesanya has since faced and beaten a who's who of the middleweight division, including Anderson Silva, Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa, and Alex Pereira in his quest to becoming a 2-time middleweight champion. The eyes, hearts and minds of fight fans around the world will be focused on Perth for UFC 305 on Sunday, August 18th. A reminder again that tickets go on sale on Friday, 12 p.m. local time via Ticketek. I now welcome questions from the media.
Yeah, is this on? There we go. Nice. Oh, thanks, man. Awesome to be here. First time in Oz. Absolutely amazing. Loving the city, loving the people. Already fans and. People are very welcoming, and of course, having the rise to the title was amazing. When I started the journey in the UFC, I saw it play out quite a bit sooner. I always had the goal. I said by the time I'm 30 years old, I'll be UFC champion, And unfortunately, with COVID taking away some time from me being able to fight more regularly in the beginning of my UFC career, I missed that goal by 6 days. I fought for the belt 6 days after my 30th birthday. So, that's the planning was almost pinpoint accurate for that. But now it starts. This is my first title defense, and obviously the first time that 2 Africans are on a main event of the UFC. That's history, and that's amazing. 2 African-born fighters main eventing a massive pay-per-view event. That's history. So that in itself is a massive honor for me. And then of course, fighting Israel, arguably one of the greatest middleweights ever, and that I wouldn't want to defend my title against anybody else.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about how this is a big one for your legacy, right? Being able to beat Israel, get that win, you feel like it's really going to sort of take you to the next level. Break that down a little bit for us.
Yeah, not necessarily taking me to the next level, but in terms of legacy, every single fight is for legacy, and you don't want to be just, once you become a champion, you have to realize, firstly, when you're in the UFC, there are no easy fights. Every single fight is the potential world champion you're fighting against. And then, of course, when you're at the top of the pile, when you are at the top of the sport and being a champion, everybody coming up is extremely hungry. Everybody's looking at you and figuring out and seeing the holes in your game, seeing what you do good, seeing what mistakes you make. And, for a guy like Israel, he has been there for a very long time. And he, like I said, he is considered one of the best middleweights ever. But now, this is my chance to show that I'm one of the greatest middleweights ever.
Question for Israel. Israel, you took a little bit of a break, man. We were able to recharge your batteries, so you were hanging out like Anthony Joshua and some other great champions as well. What's it been like to be able to sort of take some time to yourself and be able to, recharge the batteries a little bit?
Yeah, a long break. This is the longest layoff of my fighting career. 5 fights in 18 months, not as even a fighter, a champion. So it's not just the fights itself, the camps, the pressures of being the king of everything. So it was good for me just to remove myself from the game, enjoy life, took up golf, slowed things down a little bit. But yeah, doing that makes me appreciate this a lot more, because I get to see my homies like, Carlos, Kevin Jousset, even now the young guys, Navajo Sterling, toes him up, Aaron, they're starting to get into the UFC, and seeing them enjoy the little things. Like when I got here in 2018, UFC 221, I was that kid, bright eyes and everything. So seeing them bright-eyed and like, wow, I'm about to get in the UFC, or I'm in the UFC doing it, kind of reignites that flame. And also taking the time off did that for me. So yeah, fucking back into work.
Yeah, you've had a crazy journey in the UFC. You've had so many epic fights, moments, titles. But you mentioned on your channel, which is amazing, everyone should check it out, how it's not about titles for you here. You've had enough titles. Can you sort of break that mindset down for us a little bit?
Yeah, people don't understand because most people never been in our situation. So for me, look, I've been here, bought the t-shirt, done it twice. Yeah, it's not really about that. For me, it's taking on the best warriors from different lands and, yeah, putting them on my record. I've never beaten Dricus Du Plessis. So beating him is what attracts me to this fight, not the belt. So those who've never, ever been in our shoes will never understand that mindset. So, yeah, fuck the belts, I'm coming for heads, and I stick with that.
Speaking of, big comebacks, Kai, welcome back, man. Big fight with Steve Erceg. Got to ask you, I know you were sort of looking for to fight him in Perth, but what was it about Steve that really sort of made you want to come back against him? And also, what are your thoughts on the big sort of splash that he's made so far in the UFC?
Yeah, kia ora. Awesome to be back in this setting. It's a great opponent in front of me. Steve did well in his last fight against Pantoja for the title. I even messaged him after and I said, I thought you won. You should be proud of that performance. So, there's no bad blood. But I want to fight the best guys. And, Steve's right up there. showed, you know, he belongs, and arguably won that fight against Pantoja. So it's actually funny, when last time I was in Perth, I was at the UFC event as a guest fighter, and the night before the UFC, I was at an Eternal Fight Night, and that was when Steve was fighting, and that's when he got picked up to the UFC. So, you know, it's been a really short run that he's climbed the ranks in the UFC, but, you know, he's done a really great job. So, yeah, I'm excited for the challenge. You know, I feel refreshed being, you know, I took 6 months off contact, looking at the next 5 years instead of the next, you know, year, listening to all the specialists, something that I've, you know, with maturity, gave me clarity of, you know, what I want to be doing and what kind of performance I want to be putting on in the UFC. So just giving my time to kind of sort things out, sit with a few things, and reflect to know where we're heading. So I'm in a great place mentally, physically, emotionally, just ready to get back to work and remind everyone why I'm one of the best flyweights in the world.
Awesome, man. Welcome back. And Steve, I know last time we spoke, you said you're looking forward to the fans in Brazil yelling for you to die as you walk to the octagon. What's it going to feel like for you to have the opposite of that in your hometown here in Perth, being able to perform in the co-main?
Yeah, I was super excited to obviously fight in Perth. I got to be a spectator at the last one where Volk fought Islam, and to watch somebody in Jack Della, who also from Eternal, also Perth boy, walk out and the reception he got. Yeah, super stoked to sort of feel that energy in my fight. So yeah, just pumped.
Has it been a bit weird for you after the Pantoja fight? I mean, you've had such a whirlwind run in the UFC. Have you had a chance to sort of look back on what you've been able to achieve? And how does that fight kind of sit with you right now? When you look back on it, it was super close.
I don't like losing, so it bothered me greatly. But you learn something from every fight, win or loss. And I know I found a lot of areas that I need to improve in. Some stuff I was doing really well, some stuff I didn't do so well. So I'm making the adjustments to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and I get to that title shot again, and I'll take him out.
Israel, just back to you. You spoke about being the king and the pressures that go along with that. Can you give us a bit of an insight into how mentally exhausting that can be, just holding off a whole bunch of guys who want a piece of you?
Oh, it still feels that way. It never changes. I'm Israel Adesanya, you know. There's always going to be a target on my back. But experience. I've had experience in this. But again, what we do is crazy. We might seem like invincible people, but we're humans. So again, as the most active champion in history, 5 fights, 18 months, it was just too much for me. And I was forced to take a break, and I'm happy I did. And by the time I step back in there with Dricus, it'll be almost a year. A lot's happened in a year. A lot has changed for me in a year. So yeah, I look forward to just enjoying the process, all this shit, till we get in the octagon and then we'll scrap it out.
And in terms of the time off, did you do anything, apart from resting, did you do anything in particular?
Yeah, took up golf, something different, because I never ever thought, if you told me 2 years ago you're gonna love golf, what? It's stupid, but it's something different from my day-to-day. You know, every day is hard grind. And golfing, it's a way for me to get in nature. This summer was my way of getting outside. It's slow pace. I'm that dude on the course who takes his shoes off because I like the earth. And I get weird looks, but I'm like, bro, take your shoes off. It'll feel nice too. And it's cool. So I just took up golf, skydived a couple of times, you know, adrenaline, I need that. And yeah, still worked, helped my teammates, traveled, but it's been good to just live life as Izzy rather than as a style bender and constantly, so yeah, it's been nice.
Israel, there seems to be a bit of tension between yourself and Dricus. Can you just...
Really?
A little bit. Can you just run through why that is?
Tension. There's always tension whenever you fight anyone. This is a fight at the end of the day. We're not playing chess, we're fighting. So there's always gonna be tension there. We've had history over the years. It's almost like destiny, because we met in the staff investor room in Thailand, Tiger Muay Thai, back in the day. Had a little play around. And funny enough, here we are again. It's like full circle, back where it all started for me. So, yeah. And also, again, he tried to discredit the Three Kings and say that he's the real true African champion. And I was just like, it's a weird mindset, bro. Like, he came in the UFC. I knew who he was a little bit, but I didn't go, oh, who the fuck's this fake dude coming in? I just said, cool, there's another African in the UFC. But then him discrediting me, Francis Ngannou, Kamaru Usman, that ticked me off a little bit. So that's what started this. But again, I'll finish it.
And what does it mean to you to come back to Perth, where you started? Does this place hold a special place in your heart?
Perth, bro, I'm a local of Scarborough. It's my spot. Shout out to Ash. He's the one that fucking put me on. But yeah, I love Perth. Every time I come out here, I like the energy. I love the people. And this is where my UFC career started. This is where I you know, became the big dog in the yard. And I said that as I finished Homeboy in the Cage. So yeah, it's always nice to come back to where it all started and carry on the legacy.
Dricus, do you just sort of have a response to what Israel said before about the tension between yourselves?
Yeah, no, for me, you know, calling it tension, there's no tension for me. I get into the octagon and I do my job. I do my business. You can be the biggest asshole in the world. You can be the nicest guy in the world. I'm going out there to kill you. And I hope you're doing the same to me, because otherwise it's not going to be a good night for you. And as far as discrediting, never discredited anybody. Stating facts. Where do I reside? What's my postal code? Where do I train? Where do I live? Where was I born? In South Africa. Still there, still training. And I won this belt from South Africa. I didn't travel anywhere else. That was the only thing that I stated. So never discredited anybody, but quite frankly, I don't really care about how it rubbed him off the wrong way. I don't care.
I don't really give a fuck where he's from, but I'll show him who he is.
Yeah, whatever that means. I'm glad you took up golf, because, you know, that's a retirement sport. I can understand you start playing golf.
Hey, man, you do what you have to do in your own time.
And Dricus, I suppose you're the champion, but Israel lives in Australia now. You're going to sort of come in with a bit of target on your back from the crowd like Steve did not long ago. How do you plan to handle that?
Well, I mean, I've been fighting I've been fighting the crowd ever since I got into the UFC. So, you know, at the end of the day, if the crowd is cheering, if the crowd is booing, at the end of the day, it's noise, and you know, it's electrifying. You know, obviously fighting in Canada, the crowd was against me, and I won that crowd over. They were chanting my name by the end of the fight, and you know, that's at the end of the day what it's about for me. Coming in and you know, turning haters or turning the boos into cheers, not because of what I'm saying or, you know, how I'm doing it right now, but because of my performance. At the end of the day, I'm a fighter, I'm a warrior, and the people pay to watch that. And if you can create fans by performance, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to put up the best fights and give the fans the show they came here for.
Steve, how have you sort of mentally moved on from the Pantoja fight and concentrated on UFC 305? How hard was that, I suppose, with the disappointment?
It's not hard to move on. I got a guy coming in here to try to punch me in the face. So if I'm not switched on, I better be fast. So yeah, obviously it was disappointing, but it is what it is. I live by the sword, die by the sword, and I'm ready for the next contest.
Where, without giving your game plan away, do you see any weaknesses in Cara-France that you can take advantage of?
Yeah, definitely. I've been watching him specifically for a very long time. I was an amateur when he was a pro, and I actually watched him live on a show called Battle Colossal back in the day. He fought a guy called Shantar Maharaj, and ever since then I've been watching him. Like, he's the guy that I've been aspiring to get to and aspire to be, all that sort of stuff. So I've watched him over the years. He does a lot of things really well. He does some things not so well, and I'm looking to implement things I do well against the things he doesn't do so well.
Kai, do you feel like the winner of this fight deserves a title shot?
No, 100%. That was on my mind when this fight came across the table. You want to fight the guys that just fought for the belt, and you know, he arguably you know, won that last fight. So if I go out there and take him out in his hometown, that's gonna, you know, speak volumes for the rest of the division, and hopefully the UFC reward that with a title shot. So, you know, I'm excited for the challenge. Excited, you know, a lot of Kiwis in Perth as well. So I feel like I'll get a great reception walking out. But yeah, there's nothing personal about any of this. You know, we're both fans of each other's work. So let the better man win and put on a show for Perth.
Israel, just after your time off, do you feel like you've added more weapons to your arsenal for this fight?
Definitely. We've shuffled the deck at the gym. We kept what was useful and discarded what wasn't. Yeah, added a lot of different tools to my game. Working with my teammates as well, helping them out. And I look forward to showing off come August. Like for me, this is just, I've missed this, low key. I've kind of missed this, even you guys. And yeah, I look forward to getting back in there and showing off what I can do, showing out.
Izzy over here, thanks. You mentioned before that the belts don't mean that much to you, but with the win over Dricus in Perth, you create a bit of history by becoming the first three-time middleweight champion. Does that part mean a little bit to you as far as legacy?
Not really too much. I'm already the two-time champ. It's not really, it just adds to it. Even when I fought here in this arena, I said, bro, the belt's a fancy tiara. It's gonna come either way. I'm just gonna keep winning and everything else will come. The belt, the money, the fame, the adulations, all that. Look, with the win over him, he still keeps that belt. That's gonna sit over his fireplace and I get a new one. So I've got so many belts, it doesn't really matter to me. And I'm saying, what I don't have is him, his head, and that's what I'm coming for. So I wanna fight with freedom, and that's what I'm gonna do, fight freely.
Steve, again, you're going to be fighting in front of your hometown home crowd in Perth for the very first time. What does that mean to you? But also fighting a guy, you mentioned before that you've always been a fan of Cara-France. So to be facing a guy that you followed for a very long time in front of your home crowd, what does that mean to you?
I want to show the Perth people and represent the Perth people, right? So that's stands above everything else. And as far as fighting Kai, like beating him just shows the work I put in. Like he was a guy that was ahead of me for so long, and I go out and take him out, and all of a sudden I'm the guy that people are looking at in Australia, like, oh, he's the standard, he's the guy. So that's what I'm looking to do.
You had a path to get to a title shot. You got there one fight earlier than predicted. So after your last fight with Pantoja, do you reset now to obviously set a new path back to a title shot?
Yeah, of course. I don't expect to be given a title shot straight away or anything like that. I understand there's a lot of guys in the division, but I want to beat them all up and make it so it's undeniable that I'm next, and we'll make it happen.
Kai, this is your first, this will be the second fight in Perth. Back in 2015, you were here in front of obviously a small crowd. Big jump up as far as RAC Arena is concerned. When were you first aware of Steve Erceg on the platform?
Yeah, Steve's name came across maybe a month ago, maybe a bit longer than that. So yeah, I was just telling the UFC I want to fight on this card. Just give me anyone. There's actually not many people available in the top 5. So yeah, when the name came across, I thought I'd be fighting Manel, to be honest. I thought that was a fight the UFC were going to make. There was such a big history behind that, you know, him throwing a bottle at me at the press conference. And he's just an idiot, you know. I wanted to humble him. That's the fight I really wanted. But he ended up had a fight against McIve. So that fight was out of the picture, and then obviously Steve did really well in his last fight, and you know, that's the fight you want to take, the guys that just fought for the belt. So it's been a year since I last fought. Not ideal, but it's given me a lot of time to kind of upgrade the software, be refreshed. While our division's been beating each other up, I'll be coming in fresh. So yeah, I'm excited.
Did it surprise you when McCabe had a crack at you for calling out Erceg and saying that you should have called out Manel when you actually did call him out?
Yeah, all these young guys, they talk a lot. Just go back it up with your fights. Let that be your loudest voice. I've always been able to do that. If you look at the guys that I've fought in the UFC, I've never shied away from the best guys. I've always fought the contenders or guys that are undefeated, former champions. I was the guy that stepped up. So to take a bit of me time to just heal and come back better than ever. That's not being selfish. That's just me being mature and looking to put my best foot forward. So yeah, we're in a good place, and yeah, ready to get back to where we left off.
You're in a similar position to Steve because, again, you didn't get the decision in your last fight, but there's more people than most thought that you won your last fight. So does that still sting a bit, that loss is on your record when people say that you've lost your last 2 fights, for example?
Yeah, if you didn't actually watch that fight, you just saw the L next to my name. It doesn't actually, tell the full story. Yeah, it's a fight that I've just had to let go. It's not going to serve me holding on to that. Eventually down the track we'll meet each other again, me and Amir. Yeah, we know who won that fight. So yeah, let's just look forward to the next challenge, and that's where I'm putting my energy into. Not holding on to things, and yeah, just detaching from stuff that doesn't matter. I've just got to focus on stuff that I can control, and August 17th, I get to go do that.
Just one final one for you, Kai. You fought several times in Australia, and you've had the crowd on your side, but you're going to be fighting against the hometown boy in August. So what's that going to be sort of like for you, fighting against a big Perth crowd that's going to be obviously against you on that night?
I think the crowd's going to be going for both of us, regardless of the outcome. I think it's a win for this region. Just high-level fighters, representing the flyweight division, and putting it on for our people. So I'm expecting, if it's boos or cheers, that's just energy and it's just noise to me. I'm just going to harness all that atmosphere, being there for that last fight against Alex Volkanovski and Islam. That atmosphere was insane. One of the best crowds I've been part of, sitting front row. So I'm expecting the same for this card for 305. So I'm excited, and I miss that. I don't want to fight these Apex cards anymore. UFC fights need crowds, and I know the Anzac fans will deliver. So bring that energy, and we'll put on a show for you.
Dricus, talking to the crowd, are you going to try and get the Perth crowd on your side in the lead up to this one?
Yeah, I mean, quite a big South African community in Perth. And, obviously with Australia and South Africa, we've shared so much history in terms of sports, with cricket, rugby, and, it's always been a very competitive relationship, but I also feel it's a very respected one, with the Tri-Nations, with all of that. And, yeah, this is, we share a lot of similarities, South Africa and Oz, when it comes to these sports, and especially fight sports. Looking at how small the sport was in South Africa and not too long ago in Oz as well, and all of a sudden, it just starts, erupting, and the same in South Africa. And then, of course, coming to Perth, I think, with that similarities in terms of culture and how people go about, when that fight goes, like, I've only heard great things about the events in Perth, and I think the crowd's here for a fight. And that's one thing. When I show up, please show me one fight where it wasn't an absolute banger. And I think that's what the people are coming. That's why the people are paying. That's why people tune in. That's why people show up, is to watch these fights and be entertained, because that's what we are at the end of the day. We are gladiators, and we are modern day gladiators that are here to entertain the people, and I can guarantee you that 100%.
The night before, there's a massive rugby game. You're going to obviously have a keen eye on that, or you're tempted to go across to the stadium and have a look?
Oh man, there's one thing that it is weighing day, so we'll have to take a look at that. My priority is going to be the fight, but yeah, that's the one thing. I'm so happy that it's on the same weekend. It makes sense. It's going to be massive for South Africa and sporting. And you can imagine what the vibe is going to be like in Perth. It's going to be electrifying, but at the same time, not necessarily being able to go to the game is kind of sad. But hopefully and surely we'll have a couple of the Springbok boys coming to the fights. And yeah, it's a big weekend for South Africa, and obviously for Oz as well.
Peter, the card is looking fantastic so far. We can't wait for another big event in Perth. How many more fights do you believe will be announced on this particular card?
I don't know how many exactly. There are still some open spots on this fight card. I announced all the fights that are confirmed already just earlier on, and so there are obviously a few more spots to be filled, and we expect announcements probably in the next week or two to see this card be finalised.
Must be impressed with the amount of...
Dan Hooker needs to fight on this card.
Still my question, is he?
Dan Hooker needs to fight on this card. It's just, it's atrocious. He's not even here right now. I tried to get him to come here, but he was in Sydney last week. But he needs to be on this card. He'll fight anyone. So please, if you want to see this card get stacked even more, put on the Hangman Hooker.
He's mentioned a couple of opponents. Do you think you have one in preference?
Hey man, Dan doesn't really give a fuck. He just wants to fight. And yeah, he's not here right now to speak for himself, so I'll speak for him. Whoever's watching, Sean, Hunter, Dana, Mick, please put Dan Hooker on this card.
Back to you, Peter. You must be impressed with so much Australian talent, but especially from Perth. I mean, again, we were starved for talent for a very long time with one fighter, Sol the Hulk Palele. Then we had Jack Della Maddalena, Steve Erceg. We've got two guys from Perth, Quillan Salkeld and Cody Haddon going to Dana White's Contender Series. Anthony Drillage coming up. You must be impressed with the talent that's coming out of Australia, but especially Perth.
You're exactly right, Brett. It really is tremendous to see the talent coming up. As you mentioned, two guys being on Dana White Contender Series later on this year. But also, you know, it's amazing to think about the talent pool that has increased since we've brought a live event to town. And that's that halo effect that we have when we come in, we put on these big events. It inspires the community they see a pathway there for them to compete at UFC. And you know, our first event here was at UFC 221 in 2018. And since that moment, we've seen the likes of Jack Della Maddalena, Steve Erceg, and many other prospects who are on the cusp of joining UFC. And that's the impact of these live events. And I agree with you, we've got a great pipeline of talent coming through from the region, not only just Australia, but New Zealand as well. So it's a really exciting time to be a fight fan right down here in Australia.
Yeah, Steve, just one for you. Kai alluded to it a little bit earlier on. The last time the UFC was in Perth, you were fighting on Eternal the night before. Now you're here in one of the big fights of UFC 305. How have you handled that meteoric rise in the UFC?
I don't know. I think I'm lucky. Just, I guess I'm calm, and Australian people are just chill. So I don't have to worry about people berating me or, I don't know. It's hard to get a big head too when I have like people like my dad and Dave and Jody around there constantly putting me down. So it's hard to keep my ego up, honestly.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks very much, everyone, for attending today's press conference. We're going to get these away in for a photo op. Thank you very much.